Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to another video. This video is something that I'm really excited about sharing with you guys. This is a video that I haven't been able to do in a while, especially on something that's pretty new to the market. And as you can already tell from the title, and right now it's going to be Planet Eclipse's new Etha 2. So especially with something that's really new, I'm really excited in sharing the information with you guys. So I'm hoping that this video is going to give a lot of information for the person that is considering in purchasing this marker, as well as doing some reviews online and whatnot, and for you to be able to decide whether this Etha 2 is right for you. So this is going to be an absolute pleasure to have this opportunity to review or to check out Planet Eclipse's new Etha 2. This is their new revision of the Etha, the older platform, and they're calling it an Etholution. I guess it's for the new evolution of the Etha line. They are going to price it at about $399.95, but for the purpose of this video I'm just going to say $400. So it's somewhat around the original Etha at $350, but still way under the G-Tech price or the E-Tech 5 price of $550, and definitely well under the 160R, the G-Tech 160R price. So I would consider, or many would consider, this a low mid-end range, which is going to appeal to many beginners and even casual players. However, calling it a low-end or mid-end range price range is going to be pretty misleading in my opinion, especially if you're just looking at the price point, because it offers just so much that you or many people won't be able to see if they're just looking at the price point and not really looking deeper into what the Etha 2 offers. So I guess one of the titles I was considering, that it's going to be a diamond in the rough. Now right off the bat, I think that Etha 2 is going to appeal to all types of players, from the new person that's new into the sport and maybe even looking for their very first gun, and they're maybe a little bit leery in putting so much money into a marker, especially at the $400 range, and maybe not being satisfied with what they bought later in the future. And also for the weekend warrior looking for a dependable marker, but more so like a backup gun or a loaner to friends, and maybe even increase the sport and get his friends to come into the field, or her friends. But before moving on, I wanted to stress and focus on this Etha 2 as a performance-oriented marker, and it's going to be evident in many areas of the gun. Now for the first part of the video, we're just going to do an unboxing. Now right off the bat, you'll see that it's a cardboard box, pretty plain. It does have some information here and there, but it's not as flashy as, you know, the other lines of markers, and I believe that it's to coincide with basically what the Etha 2 stands for. But once you open it up, it's going to be way different from it being plain. And one of the differences that you'll already see from the first Etha is that it's not a plastic case. It's actually a zippered clamshell, and it's not metallic, but more of like a backpack nylon, or I don't remember that the type of cloth that's used for backpacks or jackets, but definitely much more durable, way more compact than the green case, much easier to put into your gear bag or your backpack and take this all in there, and really not susceptible to scratches or dings for the person that really is concerned about the case. So this is going to be a nice plus for you to take into the field. Now as we open up the clamshell, you'll immediately see that the Etha 2 also comes with many of the items that Eclipse is known for. You're going to see the full color instruction manual that basically gives you all the details on how to maintain and all the O-rings and whatnot. You'll get a heavy-duty barrel sock that you'll need for the field, and it's going to last long. You'll also get your grease, your Allen keys, as well as a nice, decently sized spare kits bag, and that's going to have your O-rings, your some screws excuse me, just in case you lose it out on the field, as well as a solenoid gasket and a purge valve, I believe, right in here. So basically whatever you need to check your marker. It also is going to have a 689 two-piece barrel. Now, for the main part, you get your nice Etha 2 marker right here. Now, the layout is different from all the other cases, but I really do like the way that it's arranged. This is a plus, this elastic band, just to keep things in there, which is a really good thing. So now let's talk about the composition of the Etha 2. It mainly consists of glass reinforced nylon, and only some of the parts are aluminum or metal. One of them being the rear part of the ASA. The front part is nylon as well, but that's metal. The trigger is aluminum as well. The feed neck is aluminum, as well as the sleeve that the feed neck is mounted to. That's metal. But before you disregard this as a choice, the glass reinforced nylon is not just some cheap composite or plastic, but this is very strong and it's going to be more durable while still keeping the cost down of the marker. Now you ask yourself, how strong? If you check out the video, Jack himself, Jack Wood, in the release of, or the prequel for the release of the marker, did an interview, and he was actually jamming the Etha 2 onto the floor of his shop. He actually was hurting himself before even making a dent. Now, I definitely wouldn't be doing that with a CS1. Now onto the grips. You have the rear one and the front. So one thing I'll do is I'll just talk about the rear first. Now the rear is has a rubber tacky feel to it. The dimples over here remind me of how the CS1 is. It definitely is very comfortable, and there's definitely a lot of traction. So if you're wearing gloves or not, you definitely feel that secure hold on it. It's very comfortable. It's not as wide as the CS1. I know a lot of people weren't a big fan of the width of the CS1, so this is a lot slimmer. It's going to be a little bit more comfortable. One thing that you'll also notice is that there are no screws. So it's definitely easy access, easy to clean. After a day's of play, if you wanted to just take this out, rinse under the faucet, you're good to go. I mean, it's like I said, it's really easy to disassemble. All you have to do is get to the locking pin right here, take that out, and take the tab and open it. Now, there's really not much that you can access here, but I'm just showing you what you'll need it for. So basically it's just to rinse this off and clean it. But as you can see right here, you have your regulator right there. You have the inline pipe. So there's really no reason for you to be accessing this area too often, unless you want to be able to take out the Noid. These are the two locking pins, as you can see, for the Noid. Now, one other cool thing that Eclipse did is to have a sticker on the inside to basically show you the meaning of the LED colors when you're programming the thing, if you really want to. But it's something that the person that would be using it might not be doing it too often. It's just one of those set it and forget it type of things. Now, one other thing that I wanted to do or to note is the space here on the trigger for the index finger. I think that's a really nice space right there, especially for newer type of players that or younger players that might not be able to reach all the way to the trigger card, that they can just put it here and still have a nice solid hold on the marker, and basically reduce the accidental firing out on the field or off the field or in the staging area and into the barrel sock. So I think that's a really nice touch, and it's still comfortable for a child's finger or an adult's finger. Now onto the front foregrip. This one is not as rubbery or tacky, but it's the same composition as the nylon. However, it still has some dimples, but like I said, it doesn't really increase the traction, but it is very comfortable to hold. It's not very thin, it's not very thick, but definitely comfortable to hold. And you also, if you look over here, there's a good ample space, and for somebody's thumb it's very comfortable. There are no sharp edges or points to like really annoy somebody that likes to hold it all the way up high, so that's very good. This portion actually houses the battery, and just like the rear grip frame, there's a locking tab that one would push, and it's an easy access to the battery. And of course I took out the battery, but the battery is right there. So it's basically a quick install or a change of the battery. There are no screws that you would need to install the battery, or no fumbling with Allen keys in trying to rush it. So definitely there will be no excuse in leaving the battery in there, whether you're a casual player or a weekly player. You know, just being lazy and leaving the battery in there, I personally don't like to do that. I know with the new batteries out there and new technology, the chances of it leaking and increasing corrosion is not a big deal, but you know, I just take the few minutes in taking it out. However, with this, there really shouldn't be any excuse. It's very easy to take out, and also for the casual player like me, I mean, I have to confess, I would forget to install the battery a few times. Actually, I went out to the field getting ready to play. The teams were getting divided, and I wanted to test fire the gun. It didn't turn on. Now, so what I had to do was quickly run to the staging area, get the battery, plop it into the CS1, and get ready to play. Actually, my run to the staging area took longer than me installing the battery, and you know, it wasn't really a far run. So that's definitely a plus, to be able to access and replace the battery. It's definitely a win-win situation in this area. Now on to the ASA, which is the pops. Like always, this is very easy to engage and is very similar to the pops on the CS1 and other markers. You basically push it in and push forward to disengage, and push it in to engage. I use the Ninja Pro V2 regulator, and this is very easy to engage. I don't really have to like force it down like the CS1. This one is much easier, you know, to my surprise, to engage the Ninja regulator. On the bottom, you have the adjuster screw for the HPR. It's basically 2 turns out, and if that's going to leave you at 125 psi, which is the operating pressure of the Etha 2. Now, these 2 screws are the mounting screws, and which will give you also access to the HPR for maintenance. Now onto the feed neck. The feed neck, like I said earlier, is aluminum, which is a plus, and it's also clamping. Just another feature that I decided to keep in there. So definitely a plus in my book. Just like all the other Eclipse guns, it comes with their def technology, so you will see that it's a little offset to help with the balls feeding and reduce bouncing and chopping of the paintballs. And actually, one thing I also noted before, that even though this is glass reinforced nylon, there's a metal sleeve inside, and this feed neck actually is attached to the metal sleeve, again, for durability's sake. Now, as far as the body, it is basically nylon with a metal sleeve inside, somewhat similar to the Ions. And in the body, you will see that it houses the eyes and the detents. Actually, on the left side, it also gives you access to the tournament lock on the board. So you can easily access it by taking an Allen key, removing it, and using a small Allen key and pressing the button. You can definitely lock or unlock the board without much of a hassle. Now, one thing I also saw recently is the EMC kit for the Etha 2. So for anybody out there that's looking to trick it out, make it more of like a Milsim look, you can definitely pick that up, and it looks pretty nice. Another thing was the talk about making this public for third-party users with access to 3D printing. So you can definitely make your own shell. However, when I was taking it apart and looking at it, the sleeve and the shell seem to be very securely fastened to each other. So I'm not exactly sure how to properly disassemble it, but you know, I'm not going to mess around with that until, you know, I get more information with it. But if it is possible, you know, definitely expect to see some funky creative designs for this feature, but definitely, you know, even with some cutouts, or maybe painting the sleeve inside and having a cutout so you can see the color and maybe match your gear a little bit more. But one other thing to consider is the different applications that anybody can have, not just for the end user, but also for the paintball fields. Now, for the paintball fields that are planning on using this as an upgraded rental or even as a basic rental, I can definitely see them considering milling a shell that basically has rental on the side in big letters, big bold letters, to, you know, to reduce theft or even consideration of theft. Or also if you're like an up-and-coming local team that want to showcase, or, you know, just spread out the word of your team, definitely make a body or a shell, I should say shell, that, you know, basically reflects your personalities as well as the name on the side of the gun. Okay, now onto the board of the Etha 2. And it is viewable as we separate the frame from the body, and that is done by taking out these two screws right here. Now you'll also notice that this is a very significant change from the earlier platform, and that design is to increase the accessibility and the ease of maintenance. For example, if you need to get access to the trigger area because you got shot on the gun, one of my, you know, pet peeves, but it's going to be pretty easy to get to this area, to take it out and clean the trigger area so it's not as sloppy or gunky next time you go out and play. Another thing that you'll notice as soon as you take it out is that there are no more eye wires, so you don't have to worry about pinched wires as you put it together, kind of like the CS1. That's one thing you have to be mindful of when you're doing maintenance on the CS1. Another thing that you don't have to worry about as you separate the frame from the body are loose plugs from carelessly pulling the body out, or just holding the wires and pulling it and basically ruining the wire or separating the wire from the Molex connector. So you don't really have to worry about loose plugs anymore. You know, if you do that in the older markers, you have one of, you know, two solutions. One is to suck it up and pay $15 to $25 for new eye wires, maybe even more if it's a solenoid wire. Or if you happen to have a buddy or a friend, or you yourself know how to solder, you can kind of save yourself by, you know, attempting to solder the wires back together. Now on the Etha 2, the only wire that you'll see is from the solenoid to the board, and even when you separate it, you don't have to worry about that. The only reason you'd be taking that wire out is if you need to access the solenoid, or you need to take out the board to get underneath it. Now another thing that you'll notice are that the eyes itself are attached to the board. Not only that, they're also facing out. Now, in order to make the eyes functional, in the Etha 2 they are using light pipes or prisms. And as you take out the light pipe, excuse me, you'll notice a thin reflective strip on the prism to you know, reflect the light and the signal from the eyes. Even with that one, it's an easy way to take out. You don't really have to worry about the eyes themselves, but basically clean or rinse the prism. Now, on this board, you'll also notice that the power button is on the side of the frame. It's no longer in the back, but more so on the side. Again, somewhat similar to the Ion. You turn it on by pressing it. And one good thing about that the Etha 2 are there are two indicator lights, one on each side. So you have one here and you have one on the other side. So depending on which way you're using the marker, you can easily tell whether your eyes are working or there's an eye fault. But one added thing is that these indicator lights are actually facing rearwards. So if you happen to be holding the marker and shooting, you can see it. But your opponents that are in front of you won't. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that being a dead giveaway while you're out there on the field. Now onto the drivetrain of the Etha 2. All the other features are very nice, but where it's going to actually shine and going to appeal, or the most appealing, is the drivetrain. For those that don't already know, it features the Gamma Core, which is a system that I'm glad that they decided to keep with Etha 2. If you already don't know, this is a quiet, smooth, efficient system that is also, more importantly, durable and reliable. The Etha 2, like I said, has the Gamma Core. The only difference is the back. Unlike the G-Tech, it has, the Etha 2 has more of a screw out type deal instead of the push or the pull pin. Now, like I said, it's, the pull pin is nice, but it's definitely not necessary. It's still toolless, it's still toolless to get access to the drivetrain. I mean, unless you really crank down on it, you don't really need any tools. So if anything, it's going to take you an extra 5-6 seconds in accessing the drivetrain, which is definitely not a big deal. If you really do need to use an Allen wrench because you did tighten it too much, you can easily get one and take it out. So I also mentioned that this is a very dependable system, which is good for all types of players. I don't know if you've already seen the video by another YouTuber. He goes by the name The Madman. If you've seen his videos, you'll agree with me that his videos are very in-depth and entertaining. His gameplay videos are cool to watch, but also his reviews on markers and comparisons are very detailed and well thought out. Now, in one of his videos, he actually put the Gamma Core into a torture test. And what he did was, he used peanut butter as a lubricant. And surprisingly, the Gamma Core still shot very well. So that basically goes to prove how durable and how reliable this system is going to be. Now, I don't suggest doing that, but I'm still glad to be able to see that. Mad props to Madman for the bravery in doing that to his G-Tech. But that just goes to show you, even with a lot of desperation in trying to find a lubricant, I don't recommend it, but it is very durable and a reliable system. Now you're probably asking yourself, how is that going to relate to you? If you are a 1-time or 2 times a year type of player, you're going to want a marker that's basically going to perform the same it did, 6 months or 7 months, 8 months later. And if you didn't throw this in the mud and basically used it and just put in your gear bag, it's going to be a safe bet that the next time you pick it up, it's all going to work the way it should. Now, if you're a veteran that's looking for a backup marker, this marker is going to basically, realistically going to sit in your gear bag for an extended period of time. And, if you find yourself in a practice or a tournament or basically even rec play where your primary marker goes down, it could be the weather or there's a slight leak and you don't really want to bother with trying to fix it on the field because you want to head out there and play. You can pick this up and just start, shooting and mowing some faces. Now, also, if this is going to be a loaner, same situation. This is going to be sitting in your gear bag until somebody decides to come out with you, whether it be a friend or a buddy that has an outing that you can't make it to. So you basically hand this to them and they don't really have to worry about it not working in the weather that they're playing with. They don't have to really keep bothering you on how to fix it as you're playing, because it's not shooting right, it's shooting low, it's shooting too high, it's a little too loud. That's not going to be the case. Now, in the event that your friend who borrows this marker is bold enough to try and mess with the settings, and that's happened for those with markers that have LPRs and it's been tinkered with, probably the first thing that comes through your head is, man, it's going to take a while to get the settings back the way you liked it. Setting the LPR, fine-tuning it for smoothness. Not with this case. Basically, just reset the board. If they did tinker with the board, set the HPR to 2 turns out, and that's it. Set it and you're done. Now, for the casual player, I'm going to talk about two. One, the player who plays maybe, you know, 3 times or 4 times a month, that play regularly. You're probably, or one of you is probably going to be meticulous in keeping it nice and clean. After a days of play, you set aside maybe 20-30 minutes to try and clean everything, lube everything, taking out all the gunk from the dirt from the air filter that manages to get to the drivetrain. Sorry, I can't talk right now. But with this system, it's going to be very easy to get to the drivetrain, the rag, if you really even want to go that far, to maintain and clean it and get it ready for the next outing, for next week, if not the next day. Now, if you're on the other camp, the camp that likes to put off maintenance until something happens, you know, so you keep using a marker 2 months, 3 months, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 months, or maybe even cases, up to 10 cases before you even decide to look in the drivetrain, and, you know, just basically waiting for it to start a leak before you even look into it. I would probably bet that if you were using this marker and you keep going that way, you're probably going to start thinking to yourself, wow, it's going on a long time without any problems. Maybe I should start looking into maintaining it before a problem starts, rather than actually getting into the field and finding a problem. So I really think that you're going to start doubting yourself on this system, that it's going to keep working. You know, I don't suggest that later camp where, you know, you wait 8, 9, 10 cases before you look into the drivetrain. But, you know, there are people out there that do that, and, you know who you are. But I'm willing to bet that it's this system, this marker is going to hold up a long time, and you're going to start doubting yourself. But nevertheless, I'm pretty sure you're still going to maintain it whenever that case might be. Now, as far as my impression of the Etha 2, I'm sticking by what I've said, that this is basically a diamond in the rough. The value is within the marker, and if you just look at the price point, many people will tend to miss what the Etha is actually offering and what it can do for you unless you look at what is inside. Like I said before, the Etha 2, I believe, is a pure performer. It's very performance oriented because of the lower cost. It shaves off some of the bells and whistles that don't really offer, you know, a significant performance gain while still keeping the important ones. Now, this Etha 2, I think, is going to fit the bill for all types of players, all levels, no matter what the experience. If you are a new player looking into gear, yes, the $400 price might look steep, especially if you weren't planning on spending so much because you need to get other gear. However, you have to keep in mind that getting a gun like this, you are already getting a pure performance gun. It's going to serve you a very long time as you progress in skill. You don't really have to tinker with making decisions or the temptations on what to upgrade. I mean, there's really not much to upgrade that's going to make this an even better performer. So when you stick by this is going to serve you for a very, very long time. Even if you're playing once or twice a year, this is going to perform, or maybe even outperform several markers that are higher in the price range, you know, especially the ones that are very finicky in the cold, or, you know, just finicky with grease and oil. So if you're playing only once or twice a year, you can be rest assured that when you pick this up, it's going to be a good performing gun out there in the field. Now, if you are a casual player, maybe playing, you know, a little bit more often, 5 times a year, once a month, this is already a solid gun. Like I said, it's reliable. It's not going to be temperamental, you know, because you're just looking to go out there, out in the field, already ready to, you know, use the gun, shoot it, have fun, mow some faces. You don't really want to be bogged down with trying to fine-tune it, or trying to make sure it's working because you have to make some little changes because of the weather or the paint. It's very likely that you're going to be able to head out there, just turn it on and start shooting. And the appeal is that it's going to be very easy to maintain and disassemble. You know, again, to recap, it's going to be very easy to clean. You basically take out these grips, put it under water, let it dry, put it back. You know, you don't really have to use Allen keys and screws or worry about screws and losing screws as you wait for these to dry. The drivetrain, if you are the type of person that likes to lube it often, very easy to get to. Or if you are the person that likes to put off maintenance, I don't recommend it, but I can see this running, you know, 5, 6, 7, maybe more without maintenance. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend it, but I've seen Eclipse guns continue to run even with that kind of history behind them. Now, if you find yourself a veteran or a weekend warrior playing maybe, you know, once a week, twice a week, this is still going to be an appealing choice for you, because this is going to sit in the gear bag for a long time. In the event that your primary marker goes down, whether it starts leaking in a practice or in the tournament, and you don't really have time to try and fix it, you can basically just pick this up from your gear bag and it's going to be ready to rock and roll. You know, you can basically think of this as a loyal dog or even a superhero that's going to basically save the day for you. And if you're a veteran, you are already looking for a quiet and smooth, maybe even efficient marker, and this Etha 2, I'm very sure, is going to fit the bill. Now, if you're using this or intending this to be a loaner, many good things can come out of it. You know, it's going to be carefree, less finicky, so you don't really have to have that person borrowing your gun come up to you frequently and asking you how to fix it because it's not shooting right, it's shooting low, there's bolt stick. You don't really have to find yourself in trying to answer all those questions. Now, if you even had a friend that was bold enough to access the settings on the board or try to fine-tune the gun for you, you know, unlike those other markers that have an LPR or are finicky, I'm pretty sure the first thought that you're going to think to yourself is how much or how long it's going to take you to get it back to the settings that you had before. Now, another thing that's a plus, if this is going to be a loaner, is the composition of the body. This is this is glass reinforced nylon as opposed to aluminum. So this is going to be less prone to nicks and scratches. Even though it is a loaner, you probably wouldn't really care about the cosmetic condition of a marker, but still, I'm pretty sure many, if not all, still kind of care if it's, you know, it has all dings or all scratched up. But because this is a shell, and in the event that it does fall or scratch, it's not going to be as susceptible to damage as aluminum. And even if it did, and it was all scratched up from being dragged across gravel or falling on concrete or whatnot, when they release the source code for the shell, you can get your own, make your own, or even buy a replacement shell from Eclipse, and it shouldn't be, I don't expect it to be too expensive. So that's another plus for an Etha 2 as a loaner. Now, the Etha 2 puts the concentration on what actually counts on the field. You know, skipping all the fancy schmancy features that might not be as important out on the field. Now, players that would use this, you know, would probably be focused more on the comments on how quiet or how smooth the gun shoots, or even how deadly the player or the equipment is because it's very quiet and easy to sneak up on people, rather than how fancy or how sleek their gun looks. Now, this is totally not similar to the original Etha. Very different. It's much more similar to the G-Tech, stripped of the not so essential features. Now, with all of that gone, you're left with a solid, robust, dependable marker, and it's based on a tried and true platform. It definitely won't disappoint most, if not all, players looking to buy it, and whatever the level the player is, whether it's, you know, a new person or a veteran, all will benefit from the design of the Etha 2. You know, considering all the cost, the ease of maintenance, and dependability of the marker.